to have the willpower to go. And not enough vets have that. I mean, we have a weird culture of hair gel and book deals. You Navy SEALs out there listening to this, that I don't know what it is, but it's made a lot of people feel inadequate, and I think that's wrong. I think we need to embrace anybody that served and walked that line, and
You
go
know,
start something.
I actually agree with all of that to like 99.8% of it. And there's like there's like a 0.2% of it I disagree with, because one of my personal mentors, Mike Cirelli, um, one of the first conversations I had with him earlier this year, oh, I'm like, Mike, like I don't stack up against you. I wasn't a Navy SEAL. And I'm like, I just worked on jets and loaded bombs and missiles and stuff. And he's like, knock that shit off. Like he didn't say it that way. This is me zacking it.
Paraphrasing.
He's like, yeah, he's like, man, he's like, don't do that. Don't diminish it. He's like, you didn't just do that. He's like, you did it. He's like, own it. He's like, you did great. He's like, don't diminish the value you added. And you didn't just do that. He's like, you did it. Right. Just like you said it. And so, what's cool about him as a Navy SEAL and, uh, all the things that he has done in his career is he's taught me to own it, like what you're saying right now. And I think he's a rare breed of saying,
Oh yes,
as a leader, I think he's a leader among the leaders, and I think he's one of the most um, prolific, if that's the right word, or polished, or I think he's one of the most amazing and distinguished. I'm going to use distinguished as the word I'm looking for. Um, Navy SEAL leaders that we have in this country, because he gets it right. And
yeah.
like there's ones that are more renowned, and there's ones that are more like recognized. And we all know who those are, and they were actually his leader. Um, but he's the one that has the most I got it, an understanding of like how to lead and run a team, and he does exactly what you just said, right? And so you think about what you and I have added to teams and into organizations, and just our own personal journey into the military. It's exactly that. We're not just, oh, we just did this. Take that out. I got a buddy who lives in town, and he will not accept the title of a veteran
Really? Why is that?
because he was I think he was a cook in the
Okay.
military, and he has by far the best bakery within probably a 10 state
Wow.
geography, and it's called Red Bench Bakery. And he makes a croissant that will transport you to Paris. It's so good. And he's a veteran. And he's like, yeah, I don't claim it. I don't like I just did this. I'm like, dude, stop diminishing it. Like you're so like own it. Like I'm proud of you for what you've done. And he's like, yeah, I just did this. And I'm like, stop. But he won't do it. And so Andy's his name. And Andy, I hope you watch this one and you hear it from
Andy,
Brenden
if
and
you're
I that
listening, buddy, you're a veteran. You did your time. I mean, when I did stand-up comedy, I had a bit, brother, and I talked a lot about your first couple of years in the military. No matter who you are, it's kind of like being in prison, right? When you put it on a resume, how do you explain you went and mopped rain? Like that doesn't make any sense. Like the stupid shit they have you do when you're lower enlisted to just fill your hours, right? It's like being in prison. You did your time, just like any inmate would say. You did the time, right? Accept your title. You are a veteran. You were willing to give your
mop
life for
rain.
this country. I don't care what your MOS was. The threat of a rocket attack is a threat of a rocket attack. If you were
Yep.
on, I mean, God, how many guys die in training? I mean, you hear about it all the time. Like the threat was still there, the risk was still there. You were willing to do it. Who knew when you enlisted if we were going to go to World War III and you went from being a cook to an infantryman? You don't know. You don't know when you enlist. So you're a veteran. Accept it. Make it a part of you. It is a part of you. Just be proud of that. When I say the hair gel book deal kind of community we get from the SEALs, it's not most SEALs. I got a lot of buddies that are SEALs. It's this glorification of just that piece we see from Hollywood and we see from the weird social media kind of trend of like, I'm following these guys because they're awesome. I would rather we follow people for what they contribute to society, right? Because I treat a lot of guys that come from the soft community with PTSD, and one of the things I find with most of them is they can't embrace the feeling of trauma and they need to heal because publicly they're being told they still need to be this badass. And it's the same thing I see from senior leaders. I was very blessed to be able to treat one of my senior leaders, one of my sergeant majors, for when I joined. And, I kept telling him the whole time, you need to be public with this. Come public. Like, you need to let people know, especially the senior guys. You spent 20 plus years in an institution. You experience things that a population that exists out in the real world has never even thought of or dreamed of, especially in multiple deployments. It's okay to need help when you get out. It is okay to take a knee, drink water, and say, hey, I need help. But there's this weird stigma when it comes to senior leaders of like, I can't. And that's slowly changing. Thank God. It is not like it was when I joined or when I got out 2013. There was rarely anybody from the senior side owning that. Wiz is a great example. I love following Wiz because I think he's setting that tone for individuals that like it's okay to get help. Like fighter pilot, pretty high ranking officer to say I need help. If he needs help flying planes, I'm sure the guys on the ground that were kicking down doors could use it too. And so if you're out there, you're listening, you're a senior leader, and you're struggling. If you don't want to come out, that's fine. But feel free to message me, man. And I can get you what resources I got. I'll help you out. But we need great leaders to step up, just like they did during combat and during the times of war we had in Afghanistan, Iraq. We need them to step up again now with this epidemic of mental health and take the forefront of saying it's okay to get the help and actually heal our veterans, because that's the issue. Can't turn blind to
Yeah,
it. And
you
Andy,
can't.
you're a veteran. I'm gonna say it again. I want a croissant now. Thank you for
Dude,
that.
you got to come. You come.
I'm gonna come.
Come on.
I'm gonna come and break my
Dude,
diet just for you, Andy. It better be great.
it, dude, you're going to, you'll like amazing.
I'm in.
Um,
We're doing it.
bring your family. We'll go on a Lake Minnetonka boat ride.
Ooh.
It'll be awesome.
We'll have to go during the
Um,
summer. It's probably frozen now.
well, actually, it's open water. I think on most of the bays
Still
still because, yeah, we got a
weird.
weird winter going on here in Minnesota. Hey, talk to me a little bit about your background and what you think of. We talked a little bit about your personal resilience um, and your healthcare technical innovation. But let's talk a little bit about your background and the blend of your military service, your entrepreneurship, the advocacy that you're doing, and but we haven't talked about what you're doing for endangered species at all,
Oh,
right?
so
And what you have done, right?
yeah,
So
we'll talk about
here's
what I
here's
had
the
done.
question. Here's the question. So how do all these diverse experience influence your approach to problem solving and innovation? And I want you to use that as the question,
Okay.
but I also want you to talk to people about what you were doing to help with endangered species because like that upon itself is a story.
Yeah, so it was not altruistic. I did not go into counter poaching because I wanted to save the elephants and rhinos. I got wounded in a complex ambush and spent 2.5 years in WTB. I spent so long in that process of retiring
So
because
WTB, explain that to people.
Warrior Transition Battalion. They're units in the military that you go through when you're wounded, and they don't know if they're gonna send you back to a real unit. Or they're gonna get rid of you. I was wounded in 2011, and my first couple months, I was not able to walk properly. I was not able to work out. I was having 3 to 4 grand mal seizures a day. I was pretty much bed rest all day, and because of the amount of seizures I was having, and that prolonged my recovery. And I got to a point where to stay in the military, to be combat operational, which is what I wanted, you have to go 6 months seizure free, and you have to be able to complete a PT test. And I got to like 5.5 months seizure free, and was like small working out, but I wasn't able to do runs. I wasn't able to push myself, push up, sit ups, the old PT test. And I told my platoon sergeant, I was like, listen, we're right there. Let me pass the PT test. I hit 6 months. I can go back to my unit. And my unit was already at this point home, and they were spooling up again for another deployment. And I really wanted to go on that. I wanted to be with my guys. I felt like I missed the end of our deployment, was not there when a couple of my friends died. And I that's all I wanted. I knew I was gonna be that was my career field. I was gonna be a scout. I was gonna get my body back and go to selection, and that was my path forward. It's the only thing I knew. I joined at 17, and it was the only thing that had safety and a home feeling with is the military, and I didn't want to leave that. So I middle of my PT test, grand mal seizure, and came out of it in the hospital being told, the Army's done. There's no, you missed your window. They're not going to wait another 6 months. You're done. You'll never be able to be an operator again. And going through this, having a military neurologist tell you, I'm a hockey player. You're probably never going to play hockey again. You're never going to be able to deploy. All these, you're nevers. And I was like, fuck you. And so I left the military and did nothing but try to get back to that readiness. And the only contract at the time that I was able to acquire to kind of prove that was counter poaching. Um, it got me my body back. It really got me my mindset back. Like I'm still this operator, and it kind of gave me that boost. I went out of that, came back to the States, and then I got into counter human trafficking. That's when I met my wife. I was doing a documentary with a good buddy of mine, and she saw something on social media. We connected, but I started bringing that work home, and my wife's like, "You're done," and that's really what made me have the opportunity to start focusing on not just what was wrong with me, but wrong with others, and kind of created that mindset. So when you talk about being the original question, being able to think outside of the box, I think I fell into it. I think I fell out of the box is the right way to say it.
Ooh.
I fell out of the box just because of life. There was no intention set. It was just life hit me and a door opened and I went through a door and I got hit again. And I went through another door and I got hit again, went through another door and found myself in a room going, this is fucking broken. How do I fix it? And then seeing a small crack and forcing my way through it. That's the only way I can explain it. There was no grand plan. I didn't set an intention to go out and figure this out. I just fell into it. And I take all the advice that my very first sergeant gave me. First Sergeant Tizer, if you see this, love you, dude. 17 years old. I get to Fort Riley, Kansas. I don't know what I'm doing in the military. I don't know how to be an adult. I was just a kid, fucking 6 months before that. I was in school and all my friends are still in school. I don't know what I'm doing. And he sat me down. He said, you have two ways right now in front of your life can go. You can embrace every opportunity the military throws at you and volunteer for everything. If there's an opportunity, you do it. And in 20 years, you're going to look back really happy you did the long nights and the hard shit. Or you can just, coast through your 4-year enlistment and get out and try to figure out life when all your friends are figuring out life getting out of college. What do you want to do? So any opportunity, we need a volunteer. My hand was in the air. And that followed me outside the military service. I got into stand-up comedy because I had a bunch of drunk buddies like, we're going to go do open mic. I was like, all right, I'm in. And then we got there and they went, we don't have enough people signed up. Who wants to do it? I've never done it before in my life. I was like, I'll do it. And, it did okay for me. It was a fun 6 months of living a life that I don't think I would have ever willingly jumped into without it. But I got to meet some great mentors in it, great life experience, have some fun. Lifestyle I didn't want though. I mean, so it's, it every little thing puts you on the path you're supposed to be on, and it put me on this path I'm on now.
I met a stand-up comic on my way home from, I want to say, or I'm going to say it's Utah. I've traveled so much, I don't remember for sure, but we're gonna just say it was Utah. And you go through all these things, and I'm traveling by myself. Like I travel a lot by myself, and I'm at a Delta Sky Lounge, and I got this shirt on that says veteran, right? And I'm like, hey guys, can I sit down next to you? Because the lounge is packed.
Okay.
And I have no idea who I'm sitting next to. This dude's got this monster ring on, and it's like championship something, you know it, right? And I'm like, okay. So I'm sitting there and I'm drinking my coffee, and all of a sudden, like there's a spot for me to like interject, and I like start talking to him because like I can't not talk to him. And
I'm sure all your
so,
listeners know Zach is he's a social butterfly. He'll talk. I love that about
no,
you, buddy. You are not scared of starting conversations.
that won't surprise anyone that knows me. They'll be like, okay, yeah. And so anyway, I start talking to these two gentlemen. They were fantastic, and we start chumming it up, and I find out one of them's a comic, and like one of my buddies is like back here. He's a stand up comic, and like that's what he wants to do with his life, and he's pretty good. I'm always afraid to go to his show, and like I haven't gone to a show because I'm afraid he's gonna make me the center of the jokes, and like I don't want to do that. Like Randall, if you're watching, I'm sorry. I'm like petrified of like having you use me as like your material. That's why I haven't gone.
I'm sure he
Anyway,
has a
so
set. Just go. Go
oh
support your buddy. I'm sure he's got a
oh,
set.
I know he has a set. I've watched it, but I know like he's got the Zach set like material waiting for the time I show up. So anyway, we're going, and I'm like, oh hey, yeah, my buddy, like he does comment, and like I show him a picture, and then like I'm texting my buddy Randall. I'm like, hey dude, I just met this guy, and so we get out of the thing, we got to go get on our flight, come back to Minneapolis, and we're walking, and I'm like, hey, I got a joke for you, and they're like, the comic and his buddy are both like, did you just tell the comic that you have a joke for him? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I'm like, it's like telling the track star, like, I bet I can beat you in a race. And he's like, they're like, why did you do that? And I'm like, because I want to see if I can make him laugh. And so I
What's the
tell him my
joke?
joke. The joke is, what does an electric car and someone with diarrhea have in common?
What?
They both hope that they can make it home.
That's pretty good. All right. I like it.
And so that, it's like kind of like a dad joke, and my kids get mad at
Yeah,
me for
yeah.
saying it. But, I mean, it's true. They both hope they can make it home. Anyway, in the comic, dude just looks at me and he just starts chuckling. I don't know if it was like a sympathy chuckle or not, but I got him to chuckle. And it's good stuff. So, I love that you do stand up comedy. It's funny, like getting in front of like a group of people and like kind of having like this vulnerable, I don't care what you think or not, and just spewing stuff. That takes courage. And
Or
it take
stupidity. I think in my case, it was a case of alcohol induced stupidity.
it just takes a yeah, well, it might have for you. Um, for me, doing those things is just like it's less about the attention and more about like a little bit of shock and awe.
Yeah.
And I think you got the little bit of the shock and awe, like, hey, it's like the hold my beer, I got this.
Yeah.